Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another sensational episode on the Maverick Show. And today's guest, and I'm just gonna say it, I don't think I'll ever get to say this again. He is 8 times, yes, he is 8 times 2 Club Award winner, a title that is reserved for world's elite entrepreneurs whose funnels have generated over $10 million in revenue. And he's done it over 8 times. And what a background he's got back there. He's built and scaled multiple eight-figure businesses over the last decade, and what he's doing right now is even more impressive than what he has done previously. Now, he's on a mission to build a movement, a thriving community of entrepreneurs inside his paid community, SetterLun University, something that we'll talk about in today's podcast, where you have coaches, experts, consultants come together to master their offer, dominate their niche, and create real life lasting impact. But it's not been all highs for him either, because there is no hero story that is complete without triumph and setback. His story is one of resilience, of losing it all and then coming back from the ashes. So buckle up. We've got a lot to unpack in today's episode. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Very excited to have you. Jake, now you've had quite a journey. You've had an engineering background in the past, you had a prototyping company, and that somehow led you into the online space, and then you've built multiple eight-figure businesses. Now you're leading thousands of entrepreneurs inside your school community. Now take us back to the beginning, because did you always think that you'd walk away from the traditional 9 to 5 and bet everything on yourself? Or was that something that just happened with time?
That's a really good question. And there's definitely some different aspects to that I feel like led me to, um, getting into entrepreneurship, having an online business, or just a business in general. I would say I've always had that spark of product development, inventing ish. When I was a kid and people were like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I was like, "I want to be an inventor."
Yeah.
So that obviously kind of leads you into more of a mechanical engineer, or I should say engineering, just in general, type of career path, because it's like, okay, you're making things, you're solving problems. That's basically what inventing is. So that was always kind of the career path pushed. Now, I do have family members that own small businesses. It's nothing crazy, but I also did see that freedom that they had, and just, obviously they weren't, again, millionaires, trillionaires, billionaires, but they had freedom, they made a good income, they were able to live, a decent lifestyle. So for me, I think just being a natural problem solver, inventor type mindset, engineer type mindset, in addition to that, led me into entrepreneurship and having a business. But I was in school for engineering, for mechanical engineering. It was my second year in school, and I was doing really well. And I kind of got that bug that it's like, okay, I'm doing well in college. Like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, well, what, do I want to go get a job? I did end up getting an internship, hated that. It was a corporate internship. But I remember there was like a turning point where I was at a family gathering. Obviously, everybody's asking, what do you want to do after college? Granted, I'm in my second year, but specifically, it was asked to me, and I was like, well, I think I want to own my own prototyping company, because product development, inventing, making cool stuff, it just makes sense. And it was my uncle that was like, okay, that's great, but you should wait. Like, obviously, get some experience and then do that. Being me, I was like, I'm stubborn as hell. I'm like, all right, fuck that. Sorry to swear. I'm just gonna do that now. And I basically, I'm like, okay, like I know how to build a website. We did a little bit of that in high school. I'm gonna go out and just start this prototyping company. And that led me into, like, you can start a business, but you need to know marketing. Marketing led me into, like, okay, I can market this prototyping thing. There's a lot to it. I need equipment, all that stuff. Why don't I just go do marketing for other businesses? And that's kind of where it all started.
That's an amazing story. One thing I've realized, I've been speaking to more and more entrepreneurs, and especially in this space, they've always had this uncanny belief about themselves that they could do what others can't. And I don't know if that's the causation of them becoming an entrepreneur, or is an effect of this. But either ways, there's a big similarity that people who are in the space, especially in the online entrepreneurship space, where things move rather quickly, you don't have to wait like a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades before you can see success.
Yep.
They have this unbelievable, like, idea about themselves being able to achieve something unrealistic in unrealistic timelines. Like what took people 20 years, I can do it in 2 years. And they make it happen. And those are the people that, generally make miracles happen. Is it fair for me to say, Jake, that success did not come easy to you in the beginning? And if so, then what did that road to your first breakthrough look like?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. Absolutely. I would say that it did not come early and easy by any means.
Yeah.
You kind of get wins, and I was doing some like, from a money perspective, I didn't make any money doing the marketing stuff for probably, I want to say, a year and a half, 2 years. I did a
Yeah.
lot of free work. I would go out there. Now, this is me getting into different marketing programs. The first one I ever bought was Ty Lopez.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, with him and what he's doing now. But, a big thing, I learned a lot of skills from him, but I didn't learn a lot of client acquisition. So there's actually, his name's Ross Christofoli. He's actually kind of like a decently sized guru in this space. He was like 10 miles away from me where I grew up. So I networked with him. I actually got in his program. I've met with him in person. And his big thing was like, if you're starting out, go do free trials. And obviously, there's a lot of people that do that and mention that in their training. So that was what I did. I just went out, I did free trials, I built my skills. One of the first things I ever learned was ClickFunnels and building funnels for individuals and local businesses. Before that, I had a little bit of like social media experience with the prototyping stuff, and like from there, really kind of catapulted into understanding. Okay, here are the services that I know that I can perform. Had a couple people that I did Facebook ads for, but that was over. I mean, this is a 2 year period of me trying different things, and finally got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm starting to make a little bit of money because the trials converted into clients. I understand how I can communicate what I do. I mean, there was a lot of learning lessons in between because, like, there were times where I would set appointments. I'd cold call, say, "Hey, I can do X, Y, and Z. Can I come in?" I'm not even kidding. I showed up to an appointment at a chiropractor's office with a blank piece of paper and tried to draw on it of like what I could do for them. No presentation, no pitch. So there were like so many learning lessons of how to become an entrepreneur, how to present yourself, how to just do business in general because I had an engineering background. I didn't know business, I didn't know entrepreneurship, any of that kind of stuff. So a lot of learning lessons definitely took a long time.
I understand. I think one thing I've realized about people who are in the business space and in this entrepreneurship, like building an online business or building any business, that will break every bone in your body to rebuild you from scratch so that you can become the person that you need to become in order to have that a successful business. And most people, I mean, for almost everyone, that pain threshold doesn't exist. It's something that comes with time. So, and you got to put in your reps. Everyone has a why, right? For some people, it is I want to retire my parents, I want to provide for my family, I want to prove people wrong, or it could be an experience from childhood that defines your relationship with money. What is that why for you? And like because you've done it over and over and over again, so it's not even just building one business; it's building doing this 8 times over, which is unheard of, right? There must be something about your experiences about your life that drives you to do that that doesn't drive other people to do the have a similar path.
That's a really, really good question. I think there's definitely a couple factors. Kind of going back to what you said before, where, what we're doing in this online space, some people just have it like that,
Yeah.
that false optimism, hopelessness, whatever, that they're like, hey, I can do this, I can get to this point, and they see a little bit of a path, and then you start trying, you fail, you figure it out, and then it's like, okay, like now I know what to do, and you get to a point where it's like, I got to the end goal. It took me a long time, but I figured out every single problem along the way. Now you have this solution, and now you can just do it over and over and over again. So in the beginning, it was definitely there was never a I want to change the world, I want to you know do any of that. It was really like I want to make money, I want to work for myself, I want to have freedom. I like what I'm doing, so I see myself having a career in this field. And now over the years, it kind of transformed away from the money aspect and the lifestyle and the freedom aspect to building something more of legacy, which is now getting more into like school. A lot of what we're doing on like kind of even some of the back end. So that's upfront education, and then even some of the back end like coaching stuff. It's not. It's so anti what everybody else is doing, where the coaching is purely accountability. It's not, hey, big promise, all this stuff. It's no, like we're gonna have somebody meet with you once a week, because for most people, just being held accountable and doing what it takes every week is the biggest thing. And then from the education standpoint, it's how do I just get all this information out to everybody. Um, Now, obviously, it's not free, so that we can pay team members, but like it's super low cost. So, it's just like here's everything. Here's everything that you need. Um, and that's again, legacy is probably the biggest reason now, and really helping people out. Like I think those
Yeah.
two go hand in hand.
Yeah. What do you see yourself like in 10 years' time if you had to paint a vivid picture of what Jake's doing? Do you think you'll continue in this online space, coaching space, just build on what you've been building on, or do you think you will take on projects that are completely out of the blue and nothing to do with what you're doing right now?
For sure, that's a great question. I would really like to, and we already have it a little bit. It's a little bit of groundwork. I've done it before. It's very hard, but getting into like having a portfolio of companies. So kind of like the Alex Hormozy route, Jacob Levin or whatever his name is, like where you have all these companies that you have a consulting board or you can plug team members into. That to me is the coolest, because I really like when I see a cool offer that somebody has, and I'm like, dang, that's so cool. Like this can be, 10 times as big. And then being able to plug team members and whatnot. But I, I've tried that out. I've managed multiple companies, at a time. I still, I'm on the board for all of our companies, and it's a lot. So there's a lot of structure. It needs to be executed properly. So that's kind of the long-term vision, but it's going to take time.
I think the struggles that you have when you're at 100K per month, a million a month versus where you're at with things, it's when you're at that level of scale, you have different operational headaches. Your margins are a lot lower. Operationally, just carrying that ship forward is a nightmare. For someone who's still at below 50K per month and they have that vision that I want to be where you are, what is that one lesson that you would tell them? Hey, look out for this. These are a couple of risks that you should be mindful of. These are the things that you should plan out for. Like, what insights can you share from having built this 8 times over and continuing to do so, that you could share with someone like that?
That's a really good question. The first thing I would say is control is at that, because at 50K a month, you have ideally it's some kind of reoccurring predictable revenue. It's not a one-off package that you sold for 50K for 1 month, and then who knows what money you're going to get next month. But ideally you have some repeatable revenue. You're going to start to hire individuals. Number one is don't overhire, don't overpay. I know that sounds bad, but I've done both. It's a nightmare. You have to work back from it. So like really having key players in place, having systems is huge at that level. I even say it to people that are at like 20K a month and 15K a month. Like, okay, you're signing up one person a week. If I gave you 10 people tomorrow, could you figure it out? And most of the time people are going to say no, I'm going to be overworked. So that it's like, okay, now we need to put some repeatable processes in place, automated onboarding systems, etc. So that is going to be one of those things. But the biggest for me is to be able to control the client experience. And what I mean by that is from lead to fulfillment, you need to have quality assurance. So are the sales calls, however they're being sold, are there the right expectations? It doesn't mean you can't sell. It doesn't mean like you can't promote that your product does well, but don't you like if they're coming in with crazy expectations on, I thought this, now it's actually this, that's going to hurt just off rip the client experience. But then also, is the client support, client success on the back end also dialed in? And I'll give you two examples, because we've had this happen in our businesses where sales is saying some crazy stuff. It just absolutely ruins off, like, from the first meeting, from the onboarding call, the client's relationship, and the chances of them turning out is significantly higher. You're going to get refunds, you're going to get disputes, and that's not good for any business. So at scale, you need to have that. And then I've also had it on our business where our back end was outsourced. So in the beginning, because we didn't know. I mean, I was 23, 24 at the time. Yeah. I like we didn't know what we were doing, right? Like we're kids. Business partner is a couple of years older than me. So we were like, okay, let's hire this support company and fulfillment company to do everything on the back end for us. Well, that's great. Sales can be, doing really well, a lot of quality assurance there, but now we don't know what's going on the back end, and if clients aren't getting fulfilled, which is what was happening, there's very bad support. That's going to hurt your reputation. That's going to really, hurt your ability to scale as well. So, really dialing those systems in. I think a lot of people, when I say systems and automations, people think like, oh, workflow and GHL, but really it's everything from holistic kind of team culture, how the team operates, how the interaction with your team and the client, doing checks with the client, checks internally, reviews internally, reports, and then obviously anything that you can automate on the back end as well.
That's great. You mentioned teams quite a lot, and I'm sure that you have a very well structured hierarchy that reports into each other. What does that look like? So you've got yourself at the top, right? What different layers of hierarchies do you have at the moment that allows you to run a company and build systems so that quality assurance and all of those different pieces that a business needs can come together?
Absolutely. That's a really great question, and I'll give you two examples because one of them is more for an agency, one of them is more for what we have for school. Now, this is something that I've learned because I've always had partners in my businesses. And when I got into doing the school and the coaching stuff, I didn't have a partner. So I learned a lot about myself. I'm still learning that I suck at managing. For me, an ideal day is creating new stuff, systems, content, core, like whatever that looks like. I can't be micromanaging people, putting tasks on people's board. It's just not who I am. It's not what I want to do. So I never had to do that for our agencies. So for our agencies, we had three partners, I guess even two at the time, where you have us at the top, me and my partner. It kind of dilutes out from there. I'm in charge of operations. So we have an operations manager directly under me. Under that operations manager, you have multiple different client success managers. And those client success managers are the ones doing the onboarding. And then under the client success manager, so that's client facing, meeting with clients, etc. It kind of branches out into two different categories. You have a support rep, so they're answering emails, doing that kind of more logistical, back end admin stuff. And then you also have more of a media buyer, account setup. We have some individuals that only know AI, so it's like fulfillment. So
Yeah.
it's one branch is me, operations manager, client success manager, and then underneath it, just different role-based people, so AI, support, etc. And then I guess we do have an escalations manager too, if the company makes sense and it's big enough. But on the other side, then you have my other business partner, sales manager, sales reps, and then underneath them is a setter.
Yeah.
So kind of really broken up into two different categories. We've gotten to points where we will have a marketing team and we will kind of have these different branches. But for me, I think for most businesses, it's better to just outsource that to an agency, somebody
Yeah.
that you trust or a freelancer. So outsource to a really good agency for your marketing, outsource the HR, that kind of payroll stuff. Um, we again we've tried to have internal marketing teams when we were at our like peak, like over $1 million a month. We did have that. It was a lot of wasted money. People didn't have full schedule, so it's just didn't make sense. Now from a coaching perspective, knowing what I know now, it's me as that creative kind of figure up on top. But like I said, I don't want to be managing anybody, and we're actually in the process of doing this where now I've taken an integrator, so somebody that is more of like an acting CEO, I guess. They're communicating with, you have two different departments. You have the sales reps, etc. Setter, same branch, and then you also have on the other side coaches or head coach, and then individual coaches, and then underneath that you have a CSM, which is just doing the admin tasks for the coaches, making sure that the clients are taken care of and that kind of stuff. So it's different. I feel like there is this ideal company structure that you should implement into your business, but you also have to understand who you are as an individual And if you're a big on sales, you can lead the sales department, but that means you have to go figure out the fulfillment or put somebody in place. And that could be your first hire. That's that quote unquote partner that can supplement what you like to do or what you don't like to do.
Understood. That was a great answer, by the way. Awesome. So, I always love asking people this question because I think I'm a bit geeky about funnels and the back end side of things. But what is your most favorite funnel, and why do you think it works so well? Like, what makes it set apart from every other funnel that you've built? If you had to pick one funnel and that's the only funnel you could run for the rest of your life, what funnel would you pick?
It's a really good question. That's a very good question. I've never been asked that either. For me, it's a call funnel, specifically a call funnel with retargeting. So there's a lot of people do a lot of different things. They do low ticket, they do VSL into an application. For me, I let my offer speak for itself. So I want to have a funnel landing page with an offer right on the top, and then hey, fill out the form below to see if you're qualifying. Book a demo. They answer a couple questions. It soft qualifies them, and then they're booking a call with the team. It's not the most ideal. You're going to get a better quality lead from a VSL, of course. And then it's the challenge of the retargeting, the messaging to, okay, now we have somebody on the calendar. They're going to talk to us in 3 days. I have 3 days to get them as educated, as sold, as emotionally peaked as possible. Um, and obviously, that's something we've developed and we're still working on. And if you can do that properly, you're going to have low cost leads up front that are halfway qualified with a decent show rate, but people that are pretty much sold and ready to go on the back end. So it's a lower cost per acquisition than like a VSL funnel, where it can be a lot higher, but we're still having the same type of sales calls on the back end.
I hear you. One thing I've started noticing more of happen in the industry, which I probably wasn't even around back in the day to have experience, and maybe it's something that you can help give me some more insight on. What I've realized more of that, assume that you're building the exact same funnel that you just mentioned, right? Like a simple application funnel. I've seen that more and more people are focusing on warm outbound, where if someone submits their information, you don't wait for them to join a call and like put in the effort and absorb that nurture email sequences that you're sending out, the content and assets you're sending out. You have outbound dialers who pick up the call, get these people on a call, like ask a couple of questions, see if they genuinely do qualify for it, and then triage those call for the teams. Is that something that you are seeing as well? And how do you feel about this?
For sure. So we've ran it with and without, and at scale, ideally, absolutely yes. Um, Actually, I shouldn't even. Let me backtrack on that. At scale, you track if somebody watches the VSL after they book. If they watch it, you let them be. Don't waste your time on them. If they don't watch it, outbound all day. This is kind of where it gets into like different paths. But for starting out, and this is something that like I talk to a lot of people about. In the beginning, a lot of people are sold the dream that, oh, I can just run a funnel and expect people to show up on call, or I can do automated email and people are just going to book appointments with me and DMs and et cetera. And for me, that the thing I always tell people is that you need to be ruthless on the phones, and that's just a fear that you have to build. I built it in the beginning. My business partner that eventually took over sales, he had that same skill set or built up that skill set. And you don't have to be like this slimy cold caller, but if somebody enters their lead info, if they reply back to LinkedIn, a LinkedIn connection or a Facebook friend request, an email, whatever it might be, don't just like wait for them to book the appointment or try to message them. Or again, after they submit the application, even if they book or they don't wait for that. Just call people up, have a
Yep.
conversation with them. That's going to get you further. It's revenue producing activity. Like it's going to get you further to or closer to the money, I should
Yep.
say. So I absolutely agree with that, especially in today's day and age with people are seeing 1,000 ads every single day
Yep.
that you have to stand out.
Yeah. What is your take on profile uh, ads? And that's really been popping up and something that's been trending, and you're seeing more and more influencers and people talking about building a personal brand. And we have had that conversation previously as well. Like, what do you think about that? What's your take on this? Do you think that's something that's just one of those things that will come, trends that will come and pass, or do you think that's something that might actually stick around for a lot longer?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I feel like it's so weird because in this like day and age of social media, that's always been a thing, right? When I got into social media in the beginning, we would run like campaigns to get local people to like their Facebook page. Now, obviously, that's Instagram now, um, and now like SMMA is a growth operator. So it's
Yeah.
like there's these principles of doing these marketing tactics that have always been around that are just getting relabeled as okay, now it's a follower funnel. I think it's good. I think there's aspects to it, but at the end of the day, a follower is a lead, and you need to treat a lead how you're going to treat any other lead, which is call them up, contact them and be aggressive. I think it's good for the long term of they come in, they see your content, that's absolutely great. But you're putting money at that point, you're putting money into something that you're not able to control 100%, which is if your expectation is I'm going to run a follower funnel, I'm going to send some DMs, have a DM setter, they're going to watch content, etc. I think yeah, like long term that's great. That can eventually work, but I want to see how can you get results now? And that's going to be like being a little bit more aggressive and direct. So I don't recommend it to everybody starting out. I think it's good. I think there's ways of doing that are good, but I it, for most people, I don't think it should be taught to beginners. I think it's the best way to
Yeah.
explain that.
But it is being taught to the beginners. I think the main target audience that these people are targeting, they are usually beginners who just starting off, don't have much following, and they think that they can run these ads and just get like a bunch of followers on the page and like skyrocket their growth. Usually it doesn't work like that. It takes a year to build out the content, to build out your messaging, to build out that kind of reputation in the market, to be able to then have that many people in the ecosystem and then also be able to convert them. But it is what it is. Awesome. You have built probably one of the most impressive school communities that I've seen on the platform. You have over 4,000 members, and they are paid members that pay you monthly recurring revenue. Now, give me a blueprint or a roadmap for anyone who's trying to replicate that success. What do they need to do in order to get their school community where they have a low ticket upfront and then that ascends into their one-on-one coaching high ticket offer at the back end? What is that blueprint? What does that roadmap looks like?
Gotcha. That's a good question. I feel like it's hard. One thing I always mention to people that I hate like giving advice on that and teaching that because like I have the awards that have helped me so much in my advertising and doing that. But if you take that out of the picture, the biggest thing and the biggest advice that I have is just giving value and don't be cheap. Don't, kind of like over deliver. Information's cheap nowadays. You have ChatGPT, YouTube, etc. So give as much information as possible. Really stack it up. Obviously, have a good ad, have a good hook. I always like to show people what they're getting too. I think that's a big thing in any kind of like e-commerce funnel or any of that kind of stuff. Like really just like show people the product. Don't just tell me what I'm going to get, show me what I'm going to get. So like the VSL on school, it's obviously a tutorial walking them through what they're going to get, etc. But really the biggest thing is like over deliver on value and then continue to deliver value, update your school, update your courses, etc. And it's a little bit of a roadmap to test out and see if what your idea for a program, community, etc. is worth it. Start off free, start off with a lead magnet, start off with a free school community, run both of those in, see if people are taking it. If they're taking it, which is what I did, I had hundreds of people in there, and then it's like okay, boom, like I'm gonna turn on paid, and then ideally, yes, you're gonna pay 3 or 4 times more than a free person, but now they're paying you up front, and then you just continue to recycle and as long as you have the value, you deliver on your promises. Um, that whole community management aspect, still learning. I can't say that we're perfect, but that's then, okay, what are people saying? How can we improve? What changes do we need to make? And really kind of keeping your boots on the ground, like feet on the ground in terms of like, what are people actually dealing with? Don't just like let them, thrive in the community like by themselves. Like you need to be in there kind of facilitating different things.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's very exciting stuff that you mentioned. Like, I have seen so many communities. I am a part of like at least 10 different communities online, and I think one of the most impressive communities out there where I genuinely see people come every single week, interact with you, and get a ton of value as well. You just have so many modules. If anyone is on the edge, or if someone's looking for to be the part of a community that delivers, then you can always check him out. I'm gonna link Jake's socials. I'm gonna link Jake's school community in the bio. I'm gonna link it wherever I can. So do look around, and if you are if interested, then go have a look at his channel as well. Thank you so much, Jake. That was really awesome. That was lovely having you on the show today. And all the very successful future to you. I'm sure you're gonna do amazing things, and just can't wait to see what's in for you next.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Again, it was a pleasure.